I'd like to discuss today the benefits of eating fish for your brain. And when I say eating fish, I'm discussing the type of fish that come from the ocean that are oily, like fresh sardines, fresh anchovies, fresh tuna, fresh salmon, pollock, but also mussels, scallops. There's a lot of things in fish that are very good for the brain, and fish does a number of things for your brain. It's not just for your memory. It's also for brain health in general, for the function of the brain. And yes, your memory, but also your mood, but also the good housekeeping for your brain, cleaning the brain out, helping the brain detoxify, and the maintenance of the structure of the brain. And it becomes increasingly important as you grow older to have more fish or to take some kind of supplement to get more fish oils into you, because the level of fish oils decline in the body with age. Not only that, but a lot of older people are on statin drugs to lower their cholesterol. Statin drugs lower the amount of fish oils in your body. When they lower your cholesterol and your LDL, this actually takes away the vehicle that transports fish oils throughout your body. So, really important, getting more fish into the diet. I'd say 3 times a week, a pretty good serving. 4 to 8 ounces. But you can substitute fish oils if you don't like fish. And my preference, krill oil. Now, I happen to be a fish eater. I was born in a part of Ireland not far from the coast, a place called Middleton, County Cork. And I didn't realize how awesome our diets were. Now, we lived well. My father was a type of engineer called a mechano. We lived well. But we had a lot of extremely fresh food. The fishmonger, you don't see this anymore, he came into town every morning and he rang his bell and he had this big horse-drawn wagon that was loaded with ice with all these fresh fish on it, like mackerel and hake and halibut. And they were just piled up on the ice, and they just came in. The fishing fleet just came in. And my mother would go out and buy she'd pick a couple of pieces of fish, depending on how she wanted to cook that night. But we also went out into the woods and we picked fresh mushrooms. I've lost that skill. You don't keep that skill when you grow up in New York City. But we used to go out and pick our own fresh mushrooms. We knew mushrooms. Once in a while, they'd catch a fresh rabbit. But my parents, they'd go fishing for fresh trout and fresh salmon because there were rivers right behind my house. We'd go to the beach and we'd get off the rocks. We'd get seaweed. And my cousin down the road from us used to grow kale. So we had kale 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, it was a really good diet. I even remember we used to go into these woods. They were called the pheasant cover. And we used to pick our own berries. But fish was like all the time. We ate fish 5 days a week. And I'm glad we did, because it's needed for the development of the brain and the nervous system and even your vision when you're young. And besides elderly people having a higher requirement for fish intake because they just have less in their body, they absorb less from the same meal. If you take a 25-year-old and you take a 65-year-old and you see them together and you give them the same size serving of let's say, herring, the 25-year-old will absorb more of the fish oils than the 65-year-old. But people with ADHD, whether they're children or adults, they don't use fatty acids very effectively, efficiently either. So giving them extra fish oils is also helpful for them. And also it turns out research from places like Cambridge University and Oxford University, giving children with learning issues, learning problems, fish oils is helpful also. In any event, welcome to our fish oils, and krill for brain health episode. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a licensed pharmacist who also has studied nutrition. I'm over here at Invite Health, but I'm also the scientific director, and I'd like to talk to you today about how consuming fish or fish oil supplements or taking krill is so uniquely good for your brain, all the different things they do for your brain. And I'll tell you the difference when we go along. Be sure to subscribe to the Invite Health podcast today, and please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at our Invite Health. site. All of the information on today's episode will be linked in the episode description, and you can visit invitehealth.com/podcast for more information. So let's get started. Fish oil capsules, really, it's an ancient food for the modern brain. There's been a lot of studies how fish oils, krill oil are superb for the brain. Before we go into it, let's go to a quick break. Jerry Hickey, Invite Health. We'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
Okay, welcome back. Jerry Hickey. We're talking about fish oils and eating fish and taking krill oil capsules, what you can expect from them for your brain health. And it's something that is good for your brain throughout your life. It's something you really should have throughout your life. Now, fish oils accomplish their effects on the brain through many different pathways, regardless where you're getting the fish oils from, whether it's eating fresh fish or taking a fish oil capsule or taking krill oil. They affect the brain through many different pathways. They mostly supply two very important fats, EPA and DHA. And these fats do many different things for your brain, also your eyes, by the way. Don't forget, your brain gets an awful lot of information through your vision. The fish oils are also very important for your eyeballs and good vision. The DHA component combines with the brain-friendly nutrient phosphatidylcholine to improve the health of your brain cells, your neurons, for your memory, or to shield the brain from stress hormones. This has applications for improving and protecting your memory and executive functions. We'll go into that later in the podcast, especially in the elderly, but also in adults and also in children or people with ADHD or people with depression. Fish oils help depression. They're good for your mood. It may also improve physical activity and performance in athletes, by the way. Fish oils are good for your muscles, and when you exercise, that's good for your brain. So let's go into some of the data. First of all, the fats, the fatty acids in fish oils, the EPA, DHA, and there's a third one called DPA, by the way. That's really found more in fresh fish or krill. It's not found in fish oil capsules. It's really great for your brain. They're metabolized into different things in the brain. For instance, the fish oils, they're sometimes called omega-3 fatty acids. They're a type of polyunsaturated fatty acid. They're very good for you. And they're also good for your heart. It's not like cholesterol and saturated fats that can have issues with the heart. These are healthy fats. In fact, your brain is about 15% these oils. So if you're not eating fish, your brain is going to use any oil that it has access to, whether it's the oil out of corn oil or butter or margarine, and that's just not working well. And they connect not having the correct balance of fats in the brain and not having enough fish oils in the brain to brain inflammation, deterioration of brain function, shrinkage of brain size, a sour mood, in fact, even depression, anxiety. Very important to get the correct oils in your diet. Now, fish oils are metabolized into resolvins and protectins. That's one of the things they do. It's just one of the many things that fish oils do for the brain. Resolvins are made out of the EPA or DHA fractions, and they act like a molecular tweezers in your brain, removing a splinter. But in this case, it's cells that are inflamed and damaging. And these resolvins do this in the retina of the eye where vision largely takes place, as well as in your brain. Now, the fish oil fats are also converted into protectins. They're made out of mostly out of the DHA fraction of the fish. They act like a shield for your brain and your eyes, a protective shield. And through these activities, fish oils help selectively protect your cognitive functions, your vision, your memory. And there's definitely data that fish oils help click your mood up many levels, like a natural antidepressant, that they help protect the size, the anatomy of the brain, the function of the brain. In fact, they may postpone or even help fight a little bit. They certainly help postpone dementia, but they may even help fight it to a degree. So eating fatty fish or taking a good fish oil supplement, make sure it's enteric coated. The oils in fish oil capsules are destroyed by your stomach acids, the hydrochloric acid and the pepsin in your stomach, and by the enzymes in your small intestine. So if you take an enteric coated fish oil, that gets past your digestive juices and breaks down in your colon, and it'll be absorbed better. Plus the additional coating in the enteric coating helps protect the fish oils from oxygen so it stays fresher. So make sure if you take a fish oil supplement, it's enteric coated. And it'd be good if it was pharmaceutical grade, because then they make sure there's no mercury in it, and they take away any oxidized fats, any lipid peroxides. They take away the odor. You don't need that. You need the fish oils. Eating fatty fish or taking a good fish oil supplement is proven to be an inexpensive weapon to help you delay or prevent Alzheimer's disease. And I'm going to go into this. I'm going to go into a bunch of studies, if you don't mind, if you could bear with me. Now, these are researchers from UCLA. It's a Dr. Greg Cole. He's a professor of medicine and neurology. He's the associate director of the UCLA Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. And they found that the DHA component of fish oils, besides being converted into protectants for the brain and resolvins, also creates a protein called LR11. And LR11 is very low in the brain of Alzheimer's disease patients. And what they found is LR11, when you have sufficient levels, and the level is raised by consuming fish oils, helps break down the toxic proteins that are part of the damage that contributes to Alzheimer's. The beta amyloid proteins, that's part of what's going on with Alzheimer's disease. So that's one study. Now, there's a second doctor from UCLA. I've read so much of this fellow's research. It's a Dr. Zaidi Tan. He's the medical director of the UCLA Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Program. And he led a team. He was at the Easton Center for Alzheimer's Disease Research, David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. And they did a fascinating study. It was part of the Framingham study up in Framingham, Massachusetts. And it was 1,575 adults with healthy brains free of dementia, with an average age of 67. By the way, they published their findings in the journal Neurology. And they looked at the level of fish oils in their blood. See, that's more foolproof than asking somebody how they eat. It's hard to really get a good answer on how people eat, how many times they eat fish a week. But if you check the blood, that's direct evidence of how much fish they're consuming. So they looked at the level of fish oils in the blood, but they also scanned the brain and saw the size of the brain, and they also gave them a whole series of tests. And they found this, that the amount of fish oils in the blood reflected the size of the brain and how well these people did in cognitive function and memory function tests. In other words, higher levels of fish oils were correlated with a bigger, healthier, younger brain and a better mood and better cognitive functions and better memory functions. It's all adding up. And there's good, solid evidence that fish oils really help block issues with the brain. So let's keep on going. You know what? Before we keep on going, let's just go to another quick break. Jerry Hickey, Invite Health Radio, will be right back. Well, actually, I do the radio, but it's Jerry Hickey for the Invite Health podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
Okay, welcome back. This is a review of studies on fish and fish oils and mental health. It's from Australia. It's from Sydney's NICM Health Research Institute. That's at Western Sydney University. It's in the journal World Psychiatry. And they're looking at fatty acids like fish oils. And they're showing there's powerful evidence that the EPA portion of fish oils is really good for depression and cognitive disorders. So they looked at 33 meta-analysis. This is huge. A meta-analysis encompasses a whole bunch of studies. It could be 5 studies, it could be 50 studies. So over the years, there was 33 different meta-analysis. For all I know, this could be 100 studies, 300 studies, or it could be 60 studies. But it's 11,000 people. That's a lot of people. And they found that in no two ways about it, that the EPA was good for helping depression. It's adjunctive. You can add it to the antidepressant drugs and get a better result for helping improve the mood of people with depression. They also found that this helped children and adults with attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder. I mean, it really meant something. And that's a big size review. That is a big size review. So here's a review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And it's a review of 21 studies, a review of 21 human clinical trials, over 181,000 people. If you simply had 100 milligrams of DHA every day, that's one of the 2 major oils in fish oil capsules or in eating a piece of fish. If you had 100 milligrams of DHA every day, it reduced your risk of Alzheimer's disease by 37%. I don't know if anything else has been connected to a 37% reduction in the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So, I mean, in other words, if you eat well, if you get your sleep, if you exercise, if you take care of your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cholesterol, your triglycerides, your uric acid, all these things that are not good for the heart and brain, and you get your fish oils, I mean, that's a way of beating the system and keeping a healthy brain. So 100 milligrams of DHA every day reduced the risk of Alzheimer's disease by 37% and reduced the risk of all dementias by 14%, because there's a lot of dementias. There's late dementia, there's Lewy body dementia, there's vascular dementia, there's Parkinson's dementia. The review also found that a serving of fatty fish from the ocean just once a week reduced your risk of dementia by 5%. It decreased your risk of Parkinson's disease by 10%. It reduced your risk of Alzheimer's disease by 7%, but here's the thing, and this is just having fish once a week. It reduced your risk of mild cognitive impairment by 29%. That is a huge finding. Mild cognitive impairment occurs in up to about 25% of people over the age of 60. And in mild cognitive impairment, there's been an unduly great amount of shrinkage of the brain. And this affects your ability to understand complex directions and instructions, etc. But it's a gateway, it's a portal into Alzheimer's disease, because about 80% of people who suffer with mild cognitive impairment, about 80% of people who suffer with mild cognitive impairment will slip into Alzheimer's disease. So a 29% reduction in mild cognitive impairment having fish once a week is pretty darn dramatic. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to split this podcast into 2 parts. So we're basically talking about fish oils in this first part of the podcast, or eating fish. And in the second part, I'm going to talk about krill oil, because krill oil has distinct advantages and additional benefits over a fish oil capsule because of the different constituents in it that you don't normally get in a fish oil capsule when we're talking about the brain. But I'm not finished here. This is part of a study, an ongoing study up in Boston, looking at the Puerto Rican population. It's the Boston Puerto Rican Health Study. It's from the University of New Hampshire and Tufts University up in Boston and the University of Massachusetts Lowell. The University of Massachusetts Lowell has been doing dynamic research on brain aging. I mean, they've been doing a lot of research, powerful stuff. A guy named Dr. Thomas Shea has been leading that. And they found that these are people ranging in age from 55 to slightly more than 60. And they found that there was a higher risk of cognitive impairment in this population. That's what they found. So they did a 2-year follow-up on these people, and they looked at the oils in their blood. Once again, they're not just taking people's word for how to eat. They actually looked at their blood and saw the amount of fish oils in there. And they found that if these people were eating more fish, if they had higher levels of fish oils, regardless of how they got the fish oils, if they had higher levels of fish oils in their blood, they did better with paying attention, their memory, their language skills. All these different components of brain health. And they found there was 3 oils involved, EPA and DHA, that you would get from a fish oil capsule, but also DPA. DPA is another oil. It's very powerful for the brain. You would get DPA from eating fish or eating mussels or eating scallops or taking krill oil. You don't get DPA from a fish oil supplement. But they found things like executive function. Executive function would be like emotional control, switching tasks, keeping track of time, getting your work done in time, etc. Controlling your emotions. Well, I already said that. It just did better if they had higher levels of fish oils in their blood. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to wrap up this podcast, and it'll be part 1, and we'll do a second part where I focus more on krill oil, because there's an awful lot to be said about that. So thank you for tuning into the Invite Health podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcasts. Please make sure you subscribe, and please leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health Today. We'll see you next time on another episode of the Invite Health podcast. Thank you for listening.